Hello, and welcome to the Last Week in Denmark podcast. This week it's me, Katie, with my wonderful co-host Kalpita, and our special guest this week, Jesper Rudd. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry if I butchered your name. Our listeners may already know you, Jesper, from your Instagram channel, Danish with Jager, and you may not know that you are also a man after my own heart, because I use your Instagram posts about how so many Danish words sound exactly the same or have double meanings in response to my partner asking me how my Danish learning is going. So you're very, very welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure. And I'm really looking forward to talk with you guys.
Yay, we're so happy to have you. This week we're going to be talking about, of course, the election results and what the initial results mean, if they mean anything, and anything that surprised us. How pigs have become a political symbol in the debates for this election, and how smørrebrød, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, may become the new national dish of Denmark. So let's start with the election. And actually, I'm going to start with you, Jesper, as our resident Danish person on the podcast. Did anything about the election results surprise you, dazzle you?
Yeah, actually, there was a lot of things where I was like, what is happening? Because I was really surprised that Lars Løkke, the head of the Moderaterne, that he got so much power in the end. This is the second time that he have been in this position where he's the politician like in the middle of the two blocks, red and blue. And he have been now in the government with the red and the blue together, so a coalition between the two blocks. And I was surprised after this government that we actually somehow gave him so much power again, because they have been able to do a lot of things. But I think also a big part of the Danish people are a little like, it haven't been the best. And people who normally vote for the red bloc and for Socialdemokratiet, they have been a little disappointed in the way they have acted. And the same with Venstre, the biggest party in the blue corner. Their main voters have also been a little disappointed. So actually, it's clear to see that the two biggest losers are the biggest parties in the red bloc, Socialdemokratiet, and the biggest in the blue. Actually, Venstre is almost not even the biggest anymore. They just made it Liberal Alliance, the new party with Alex Vanopslagh, was actually very close to become the biggest party in the blue bloc. So they have lost some voters during this government period. So I'm surprised again that the Danes gave Lars Løkke this position to be the kingmaker, as we say. But for me, there's a lot of losers and not that many winners in these elections. And I'm actually surprised to follow the process from now on. How will they even be able to create a new constellation, a new government? Because it is not very clear. And right now, the leaders of the parties, they are very stubborn or very direct and saying, no, we are not going to work with Lars Løkke, or no, we're not going to work with this person or this person. So it doesn't seem right now that it's going to be able to somehow come together. But of course, they can go compromise and hopefully figure something out. And if not, then we will actually have to vote again. That's a part of the Danish system, that if you are not able to create a government, then it's up for a new vote. So, but I'm pretty sure, I'm not an expert in elections, but I'm pretty sure that had never happened, that we have had a re-election because they couldn't figure it out. But already now, with the pointing at who should be the one trying to put the government together, was also difficult. Some point, of course, at Mette, and some point at Lars, and some point at Troels. So yeah, it's really interesting and complicated, I would say, also to follow. And again, it's difficult to point at the winners and the losers. You can of course see, okay, the two biggest parties, they have really lost a lot, but for the rest, it's a little like, they have gained a bit. I think all in all, I would say the biggest losers are the Danish people.
There was a TV show about that before, but it was very different to an election. The world's biggest loser, that was a TV show about people losing weight. So, I mean, that could be an alternative instead of a completely new election. It's just put them all on this terrible show. There's actually a documentary about how horrendous it was. But anyway, TV in the 90s. But coming back to the election, because that's relevant, I can't make heads or tails of it at all. Now, I'm not big into politics. It's not really something I pay that much attention to, particularly in this case where I was like, I couldn't vote. I kind of learned enough to talk about it and understand what were the different parties. But in terms of who has lost, how many votes and how many seats and how many mandates, I have no idea what's going on. I'm kind of comforted by the fact we're in this no man's land at the moment where nothing is really happening. So it's just like nobody knows what's going to happen. So I feel very on par with everybody else. What do you think, Kalpita? You're usually the adult in the room I ask about politics.
I do know last time it took them 42 days to come to an understanding and agreement of how they want to do this government. I don't know if this information is adult enough or not, but I do know that this time was a new set of surprises compared to last year. Last election, it was a new thing for the whole of Denmark to have a government that was sort of purple, a mix of blue and red. As far as I have read, that has not happened before, so that was a unique situation as well. And we are yet in another unique situation where we don't really have a majority. A lot of people have lost seats. The smaller parties have gained seats. And it is also a reflection of the communal municipality elections as well, because a lot of people who voted have shown that they do not trust the way the political system is running these days. And they have also, through their votes, expressed uncertainty because, one, we are in uncertain times, but it also, for the lack of better word, feels like a big cluster mess. And this national level election also seems like that because everybody has shown a bit of distrust, whether it's with Mette, whether it's on Lars from Moderaterna, or the Blue Bloc as well. It is very obvious that Alex Van Opslark has gained popularity.
He's the only one I know the name of. He has so many posters all around where I live, and I don't like him, but I don't know anything about him. But from his posters, I don't like him.
But see, that's the thing. You either like the guy or you don't. Like, for example, with Lars, even if you don't like the guy, at some point you see the sense of him being in the position he is in. And he did start his party with the intention exactly of being able to be a kingmaker. And he has that role, even with the previous election and this election as well. And he has very categorically said he doesn't want to be prime minister, but he most certainly likes to hold that position of being the kingmaker because he now has the power to make or break whoever comes in position. So that is also an interesting tactic. And that's why I think Lars has any position in the elections this year, is because people, even if they like him or don't, see that he has this quality to him as a politician because he has been prime minister 2 times in the past, and he is right now in the middle of very, very critical negotiations, and people see that he's the person that can hold his position as a negotiator and as an international position representing Denmark. Everybody sees that he has the capability of representing Denmark in critical conversations. Having said that, there are many, many local issues and national issues that people are really, really struggling with, and they're not very happy with Mette. If you, by any reason or interest, have been able to catch up on any debates, I was shocked at how direct people have been saying that they just absolutely do not want to work with Mette Frederiksen. They don't agree with her policies on giving checks. For example, like recently she announced food checks. They're not very happy with the way she and her office has managed immigration, which has been a very big conversation, not just in Denmark, but across Europe, and the way she and her government has managed the green conversation, which is basically sustainability, conservation, and so on and so forth, which have also been major topics through the election as well, which I'm sure we are going to discuss some of it as well. So this position that we all are in this waiting, hold your breath, is it going to be 42 days again? Or is it going to be an election again? Because I don't think Danes are very interested in going back into election mode. They would rather say, come on, guys, be adults, make a decision, agree to something, compromise on something, get on the negotiation table, and let's move on. We have work to do.
I really hope Mette Frederiksen stays Prime Minister because she is the easiest name to say. And I feel like that's a really important thing to take into account. These are my feelings.
It would make sense for her to be in the position as well, because there are so many things going on where she's already taken a front foot, right? It's not
true.
just the US, but it's also Ukraine, it's also Greenland, all these conversations that are still actively on the table and negotiations are on. It makes sense for Mette, Lars, and Troels to be exactly in the positions they are. They spent 4 years in their positions working on these very, very important critical things. And it only makes sense that they continue doing that because Trump is not leaving office in the next 2 years. So we need these people to continue that. Because if there's someone new who comes, not that I object on anyone new coming, but if anybody new comes in, they're going to take time to get integrated in the whole thing. They're also going to need to take time in understanding what the dynamics are, building these relationships that these three guys have already built, whether it's with the Trump government, Greenland, or any other. So practically, it makes sense that these three people remain in the positions that they are in. But then again, if there is a new prime minister, then there is a new prime minister, and we just need to take it from there.
I think you're really right in this, because I also think a lot of Danes have voted with that in mind. Or we are still in a crisis situation. We have still a lot of things going on in the world where it's best for us to have a stable situation, so not to try anything new. So I really agree that I definitely think that a lot of Danes have been like, it's not time for a change right now. So I think that also have impacted the whole election, because I also think a lot of people are tired of Mette, and there have been a lot of things since COVID, and it have been difficult for her because there have been these ups and downs, but still she have been stable, and she have been now doing quite good, would some say, in managing Donald Trump and those crises here the last couple of years. I think she somehow won a bit back from the Danish people, but on the other hand, it's also like, what can we choose between? So that's also, it is. I think it have been a difficult election for many Danes.
Yeah, there is also a reason why she was dubbed, or is dubbed, the crisis minister, because ever she's unfortunately come into office since, 6-7 years ago, there has been one crisis after another, right? And it's not that she's a perfect leader, or she's made mistakes, and so has Lars, and everyone else sitting on the stage has made mistakes. What will be interesting is what comes out of these negotiations, to see how policy and conversation around sustainability and immigration changes, because those were the two really, really hard-hitting conversations that took place among all other things. Of course, we have this crisis going on, or these many crises going on, and that's probably going to continue for the next year or so, if not more. But then we also have these internal things that we really need to focus on at the same time. Also, personal economy has also been a big conversation. So those two topics, I think, are going to be the driving force in shuffling the rest of the government. So it'll be interesting to see who becomes immigration minister. I just hope it's not Morten Messerschmidt. And also environment minister and culture minister, and all of those that will then critically make contributions towards policies affecting these three topics within the Danish economy.
Speaking of the environment, I'm going to take this opportunity to move us on to our second topic of this episode, and that's where pigs have become a political symbol in modern debates. So while pork production was once a unifying source of national pride linking farmers and workers, it is now a dividing issue tied to animal welfare and the environment, and it's come up a huge amount in the recent political debates in terms of farming practices and cultural issues. Today, positions on pork often signal broader views on agriculture and what Danish culture means. Do you know anything about this, either of you?
Yes, it's
Do you
true.
know of pigs?
Yeah, it's true. It had been a huge subject here during the election, and it is also something that we Danes sometimes talk about, that we have 25 million pigs.
That's so many.
That's a huge amount, and of course it have an impact on. They're talking now a lot about our water, our drinking water, how we are controlling and how we are doing agriculture, how damaging it is to our environment. So it is a huge thing, and all the green parties have, of course, been, oh, let's make a lot of changes. We have to control this better. And all the old traditional farmer parties, they have been more like, oh, hold your horses. We need to make sure that we are not making all these proud farmers too angry with changing too much. And I would say I'm not an expert in all the rules that they have and if it's high or low, the limits, but it is at least worth debating. And I think it's actually interesting that such a specific topic as pigs have become a main topic in an election. I think that's interesting that it have been somehow a center of, we can talk about climate, we can talk about animal welfare. It just somehow sums up a lot of these issues.
I very clearly remember when I was moving here, I was watching the TV show Bon. And in, I think it's season 3, the storyline is also around pigs. So it's Birgitte Nyborg's, at the time, boyfriend is eating some pork in a restaurant and he gets sick because the pig was drinking the water that had the pesticides. And now it's all coming full circle, everyone.
That's a lot with Born, actually. If you have ever watched also the Greenland, that's also in one of the seasons.
It's the only history I have.
Yeah, exactly. They have been in front, the two riders there. That's impressive.
It's the only way I'll learn.
Well, you're clearly into the Danish pop culture, Katie.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of you for that. I'm not that integrated. Hang on. I'm just not into the TV series though. I know Tobias Rahim and I can sing along. So
Ooh, very
yay
good.
me.
I just wait for Cohosts and that's it. That's it.
Back to the pigs. I think pigs have become a conversation because they are a living thing and they are like the clickbait of conversations. They are easy to relate. They're easy to have an emotion attached to. And that's what the climate conversation is always about. It's always about living things. It's about trees. It's about animal welfare. And it's about how it's going to affect our health in short term and long term. I think pigs are very, very adorable. And even the young ones, piglets, have been a conversation as well because there are so many. And to control the population of these pigs, you need to slaughter them. Also a source of export income for Denmark. So if we do have the conversation of how to reduce production of pork because we export all of this and we get a lot of income out of it actually, and to then redirect farmers into another source of income in itself is a very complicated issue. And I don't think it's a simple, straightforward conversation, although I do believe that there are some very, very smart people who will come into office and are already working on this situation. We can't be, in simple terms, telling farmers that enough of this business of yours, now you go find something else to do and then, have less pigs. It doesn't work like that.
Mette did it with the mink, right? So she have killed, she have killed a whole animal. So she could do it again, but probably not.
Oh my God. Everyone talks about the mink.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she did have the blanket of COVID back then,
Now she had the blanket of saving the environment, but that's not as strong.
Yeah, precisely. And that's not something that's going to work with pigs either, because there was also conversation about not slaughtering them in Denmark and then shipping them somewhere else and slaughtering them. But then again, all of these things need resources. Even if you ship a produced product or you ship the raw material to be produced someplace else, irrespective, it is costing farmers and we cannot compromise farmers. We just need to have better solutions. It's the same thing with the pesticides in the groundwater. It's easy to say that, oh, don't use any pesticides. But then what is the other solution? Go ecological. Ecology is very, very expensive, which means at the end of it, it's going to press on everybody's personal economy. And then we are stuck in this loop of, you go to improve something, it's always going to affect the common man, irrespective of what you do. So it's not just about policy, it's also about having these longer, better conversations with everybody and all parties involved to find a solution that's going to be long-term sustainable and not something that's just working because we have technology or we have AI right now.
But that's true. And that's also where the Danes have to compromise a bit by saying, okay, if we actually want to solve this issue, then we also have to accept that we cannot buy a medister for €2 or 15 crowns or a flæskesteg for 9 crowns half kilo. So that's, of course, also what's difficult for the politicians to actually make a decision that either going to make it much more expensive for the customers, so they will be punished that way, and make it difficult for the farmer. So it's difficult to be popular in this in this situation.
But I do know one thing for a fact, that no matter what policy comes in and no matter who makes what decision, you cannot take meat away from a Danish person. You cannot take away meat from their plates. And I can assure you that if they want to have meat, they will have meat, and they will make sure they can afford it as well. So I do understand that the price of meat, even today, like I get really, really upset when I just want mince beef and I can't get it because I have to pay 45 kroner, which is ridiculous to pay for it. I can afford it, but I don't want to pay that price because it's ridiculous, right? But then if it's Easter, if it's Christmas, or if it's just that one day in the week that I want to have a good piece of pork, then I will pay for it. And I know every other Dane would do that because meat is such an intimate part of the Danish food culture. But that does not mean that we pressure the farmer for it. So I don't think the meat conversation, irrespective of environment or whatever, is going to rest at a simple solution. It is going to be something that will go on for a little time until everyone is at least satisfied, if not completely happy.
It's true. Danes will react if you take away their pork. And we saw that there was this big debate when they decided in some kindergartens and some schools not to serve pig. Then everybody was like, oh, no, you cannot decide that. They have to decide on their own. You cannot take away their frikadelle and stuff like that, And that's both like a Danish thing, like, oh, we want to be able to decide ourselves, but also, don't touch our meat. But I think it's the way to go, actually. That's my opinion, that I believe that these big institutions have to take decisions because the single Dane will not do it himself. I don't believe that. But you are right. If you want to buy the meat, most Danes can do it, but the price have been a lot higher the last couple of years.
Yes, so don't worry, people. Nobody's taking meat off your plate. It just needs to, find a good position in our lives.
Did you know that the Last Week in Denmark newsletter is available in 8 languages? Hey there. This is Fionn from the Last Week in Denmark podcast, and every week you guys are tuning in to hear me and my fellow co-hosts talk about the top news of the week in English. But let's be real, we're all internationals, so not only are you speaking English every day, you're probably also speaking a bit of Danish, but you've probably also got your own native language as well, like the multilingual master you are. So why not treat yourself to the luxury of being able to read Danish news each week in your own native language? So head on over to lastweekdk.substack.com, that's lastweekdk.substack.com, and sign up for our newsletter delivered to you every single Sunday.
Yeah, you just have to want it enough. But speaking of the Danish diet, that brings us to our last topic on the podcast today, and that is that Smørrebrød, I'll get you to say it properly later, Jesper, is being rebranded as the real national dish. So a new book is arguing that the classic open sandwich better represents food culture than stegt flæsk. Strongly disagree over on this side. highlighting its deep roots from Viking times to modern restaurants. So just for a bit of history on Smørrebrød, after decades of decline in the 1960s and 70s, Smørrebrød has been in revival since the 2000s with higher quality and renewed interest from both chefs and diners. A lot of restaurants doing fancy Smørrebrød, which in my opinion is just a pile of food on a piece of bread. But what do you think, Jesper?
I love smørrebrød. Smørrebrød is amazing. You can always find space for a piece of smørrebrød in your belly. It's also because it can be so many different things. I think it can be herring, eggs, the roast beef. You know, there's something for everyone. Everyone have their own favorite, and that's just amazing. I think it's a beautiful piece of food.
What's your go-to Smørrebrød? Like, what's your, like, you go up and you're like, oh, I'm going to pick one. What do you go for?
That's difficult. It depends on the day, I would say. But
oh, okay. It's a Friday. You after this episode, you're gonna go out and you're gonna grab a Smørrebrød.
After this, I would probably take one with ribbensteg. That's always good. Rødkål and yeah, that's a good one. I would take that any day.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would do at least 2 beers first, and then I would have a roast beef with remoulade and
good choice.
Fried onions on it.
Yeah, that's also a good one.
Yes, I do like that. Just there's fried onions on most of the Smørrebrød as well. Just like why not? This is garnish. Excellent.
It's amazing.
But do you like it more than stegt flæsk? I love stegt flæsk. It's just big bacon. It's great. I know we were just talking about the pigs, but this is a separate topic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love stegt flæsk as well, and also with the election, you actually also have valflæsk. I don't know if you know this, but at the election, you also eat flæsk, more pork. So
fun.
it's fun for me to see in the supermarkets. Then it's election, then it's like, stegt flæsk, then it's valflæsk stickers on all the stegt flæsk, and it's sold out. I tried to get my valflæsk on the election day after work. It was impossible. I was in 3 supermarkets. It was sold out everywhere. So you have to be a little ahead there. But I love the stegt flæsk as well. That's a great dish. For me, it's actually more a dish, I would say. Smørrebrød is more
Snack.
delicious. And snack you can, but it's more for lunch, I would say, than you have a smørrebrød. I would probably not eat it for dinner, you know, then I would go for stegt flæsk. Then for me, stegt flæsk is more, you have it with your white potatoes and your persille sauce, and that's amazing. I think that's more like what you would keep as the traditional Danish dish, because the other one is like nice, and it's also a little hip right now, so it's also a little for the tourists to be like, go and try our smørrebrød. I don't think many Danes will say, go and try our stegt flæsk, because it's this brown, white dish. It's not really smørrebrød. You can make more pop and more like, there's more green things, and that's probably also why the chefs are more digging into that they can actually experiment and do their own thing and their own garnish and stuff on it, so to make it more specific. Stegt flæsk is difficult to make beautiful for the eye. It's just, as you said, bacon or like brown meat, and if you are trying to make it your own, then Danes will say no. It's not the right way. You don't mess with stegt flæsk and persille sauce, because it just works.
Yeah, I totally agree, by the way. I mean, stegt flæsk also has this cultural relevance, right? Like Smørrebrød doesn't have that. I would say it's like bakeries in Copenhagen. Smørrebrød is also something that's become popular, very, very commercialized. And there are Michelin star Smørrebrød parlors. I mean, what's that about? But then sure, for social media, for tourism, if that has to be the dish, then that has to be the dish. But I totally agree that stegt flæsk would be my vote as well. My in-laws had valflæsk as well, which I didn't know. Had I known, I would have bought them myself as well. But I mean, what a dish. It's just such a fulfilling, it just warms you from inside out, that dish. And a smørrebrød will not do that. It's just something on a piece of bread, and that's it. I did watch a TikTok, by the way, about this chef who said that smørrebrød or open-faced sandwiches is something that was inspired from Ghana, where Denmark colonized Ghana for some time. And the inspiration for open-faced sandwiches in Denmark comes from Ghana. I don't know how true that is, but this said chef was from Ghana, and she explains how it was a different flour because they don't grow wheat, that they used a different type of flour to make their bread, and they put stuff over the bread depending on whatever their local flavors were, and they ate an open-faced sandwiches, which then Denmark was inspired by and then got to Denmark to make it their own, says she. So maybe go scout your TikTok.
Yeah, I did a quick Google as well to kind of see and came up with that the idea of an open-faced sandwich, not specifically smørrebrød or whatever the Ghana version is, but it came from basically they would use very stale bread as plates for food and would pile it on top in the Middle Ages. And that makes a lot of sense when you think about rye bread, in my opinion. Yeah, that would mimic middle-aged type stale bread in my opinion.
Katie's still binging.
So it's actually not that long ago that the Danes decided that our main dish should be stegt flæsk. There was this national vote made by Dan Jørgensen, who was at that moment, I don't know what he was the minister for, but he made this. And actually, a dish that almost won was boller i kaj.
Oh, no.
I don't know if you know it, but it's this curry dish with meatballs in. And I think a lot of Danes were a little like, no, that's not Danish enough. So that was why we somehow changed it to stegt flæsk. But it was interesting that Danes also chose also based on what they liked and what do the kids like. And so boller i kaj almost became the national dish in Denmark. But yeah, that stopped. but that was a surprising second, at least, that we came in.
Yeah, I am not a fan of boller i kaj. It's a me thing. It's not about the boller i kaj, but I didn't have it for the longest time because I don't love just a ball of meat. I find that quite strange and not a great plan. But then my partner, she's pregnant at the moment and she's been really going through phases of craving bread and butter and then boller i kaj. She was like, just try it. And I did. And I have to say the curry sauce really just tastes like butter. I don't know if that's her problem or if it always tastes like that. But I would argue it's not a curry sauce. It's curry colored and it tastes like butter.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's so weak in the taste that you don't really taste any spice or anything. It's just this creamy. Yeah, I think you're right. It's actually more butter, but it's really yellow. And then it's served with rice. So that's also a little like Danes were like, no, we are potato people. We had to have a dish with potatoes, not rice. And yeah.
I mean, I'm Indian, so calling it curry itself is a crime. Let's just start there.
Yeah, but also the name, it's not that creative to call it
balls and curry.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing in Denmark is creative. No, it's just like travel card, fairground. Nothing, everything's Thule. Like, no, it means fairground. It means literally what it is.
Smørrebrød, that's also not that creative.
Bread butter.
Yeah.
But I like it. I enjoy the straightforwardness. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. But listen, we've covered all our topics for this week's episode. So thank you both so much for your time. Great to meet you, Jesper, and thanks so much for joining as our resident Denmark expert.
Yeah, it was a pleasure joining you. And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being there. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Yes, thanks, everybody. Until next time. Bye.